Hey everybody, welcome back. As you can see, I'm in the new shop. You know, by the paneling, it's pretty obvious. Definitely gonna have to do something about that, but for now, I gotta get down to the project. So, first project, I bought a Dewalt job site saw, and I want to build a cabinet for it, but I want it to be portable, so I can actually throw it in the back of a truck when I go on road trips and bring it with me. And that's what it looks like. So that's what we're doing today. Nothing too crazy about this. Now, I did leave some elements in there for a router lift system or a router table and a few other surprises for down the road. Today, we're just building the cabinet. Let's get started. So for the cabinet part of this build, I did it all out of 3/4 inch plywood, and it took just over a sheet, about a sheet and a quarter of plywood. I roughed everything out on the table saw, and then I'm being really pretty careful about the layout on this, about my measurements, because I designed it with really tight tolerances so the saw just fits in the cabinet. So after cutting everything out on the table saw, I cut everything to length on the chop box. And on a few pieces, there's like this L shape that needs to be cut out. So I laid that out with the framing square and a tape measure, and I need to transfer the lines to the opposite side, so I'm using my straddle square to do that. On one side I'm going to cut on one line, and then I'm going to flip it over and cut on the other side, so having really accurate lines is really helpful. All the parts cut out, I wanted to start laying out where some of the screws were going to go. Now the screws that are going to be visible from the top, I want them to be really uniform. It just looks better. And I use this device to lay that out. It just makes it really easy so I don't have to tape measure everything out. There's a link in the description box below for those of you who are interested. So after everything was marked, I pre-drilled all my holes with my favorite snappy flush mount bit and started the assembly. Now on cabinet assembly like this for shop projects, I have a really simple process. I will add glue to everything, not 100% sure it's necessary. Then I tack everything together with an 18 gauge brad nailer and then run 1.5 inch screws in to hold everything together at the end. It just makes the process go quicker. I use the brad nailer to tack it together, which holds everything in place really nicely, and then come back and add screws. And one of the nice things about using the brad nailer is something is a little bit askew or it's not quite perfectly lined up. With your palm of your hand, you can just tap the piece or even use a hammer and tap it lightly to move it to where it needs to be. Now this piece is going to be inside the cabinet sitting behind the saw, so I need to have a cutout for the dust collection hose. So I'm just laying out some rough dimensions, and I'm going to create a kind of a half circle. And I don't have a compass in the shop big enough to create that size of circle, so I just use a piece of blue tape wrapped around a pencil and a screw, and that works really well in a pinch for a compass. Now I'm going to cut most of this out with the jigsaw, and I want kind of soft edges on the top there, so I drill those out with a Forstner bit, and then use my jigsaw to cut out the round section, and then took it over the table saw and set the piece over, carefully set the piece over the blade to cut that nice and straight, and then finished it off with a handsaw. Now people ask me a lot about keeping an oscillating spindle sander in the shop. I've had them, and to be honest with you, I don't use them that much. I use these. These are my spindle sanders that I made for my drill. I'll actually put a link at the end of this video if you want to check out how I made those. I designed this to be built in 3 sections. You have the left side, the middle, and then the right side. It'll all make sense here in just a minute. So after the left side was done and the middle was done, I put them together and I use screws and glue, and then I use pocket hole jigs on the bottom there. And this is a cool little trick. I don't use scrapers a lot, but when I'm doing glue ups like this, they make amazing glue scrapers for tight corners in plywood. You can get all the glue out and it makes for a really nice looking seam. Now, one of the disadvantages of this shop is the ceilings are a lot shorter than my other shop, so I have to be careful about the lighting. So I measured just to make sure it would fit, and then I was able to set that half assembled side on the other, and again screwed that together. The last part for the actual cabinet build is just to put that centerpiece in. Now, I left those two in the back, those two slots or dados or grooves or whatever you want to call them in the back for the table saw sled and miter saw. And I'm not getting crazy with the legs. I'm just using some 4x4 whitewood I picked up from Home Depot, and I'm actually just screwing it to the cabinet. And I want this thing to be portable, so now all I have to do is to take the screws out, and I can throw this in the back of my truck and haul it wherever I go. Now, the legs are designed to fit into that little cubby that you see there on the left, so after I unscrew everything, I can slide them right in there. Then just add some finish to this and come back with a little bit of furniture paste wax after the finish was done, and made sure the top was nice and polished. Makes the material slide over it a lot easier. When I modeled this up, I forgot the cutout on the left side for the bars on the table saw fence. So I came back with the jigsaw, cut that out, and just cleaned everything up with some sandpaper. Then it was time to fit the saw. Now, before I permanently attach the table saw, I want to make sure that it's nice and flush with the top of the cabinet, and I did that by adjusting the legs. And once the legs were adjusted, I just used screws through the frame, and that holds it in place. And then, of course, tested to make sure that the fence would move nice and smoothly past the cabinet, and it did. Of course, no project's done until it's branded. Now, I'm actually really impressed with this saw. I was cutting through 2.5 inch or just shy of 2.5 inch walnut with absolutely no trouble at all. I'm sure the saw is going to do great, and I'm excited about using it for more and more projects. Hey everyone, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to see how I made my drill spindle sanders, check out the link on the right. If you'd like to see another table saw project, check out the link on the left. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be talking to you real soon.